I'm hoping to shoot for 100K this year, meaning in 2026. And there's going to be a couple ways that I kind of break that down to actually accomplish it. And so with that being said, let's get into it. So here's how I am planning to make 2026 my 100K year. Welcome to the Side Hustler Podcast, the podcast for women building their dreams while balancing work, family, and all the things. I'm your host, Carly LeBlanc, a wife, mom, marketer, and your side hustling friend here to teach you how to grow a brand that works for you and not the other way around. Whether you're a side hustling pro or just starting out, this is your safe place for real talk, actionable strategies, and the encouragement you need to keep going. We're here to help you make progress and not perfection. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's build your dream one step at a time. Hello, and welcome back to the Side Hustler Podcast. I'm your host, Carly LeBlanc, and I'm so excited to be here. If you are tuning in for the first time, welcome. But I am so excited because this episode is probably one that I have been most excited to record. I was actually driving in my car, and today I was thinking, like, how in the world can I put something out there that really just allows me to be transparent? Because I feel like online or even just in the digital space in general, we're so good about showing the highlights of our lives, but not really being fully transparent and showing like the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I was thinking to myself, typically around this time of the year, everyone takes this moment to reflect and to look back and, try to come up with a game plan for the next year. And I took this as an opportunity to really just kind of like dive in on what worked this year, what didn't work this year, how I transformed my business from last year to this year. I just told myself, I feel like being a little bit different and, really thinking outside the box, but then also being transparent, sharing my numbers, talking through some things, because I know that there's someone's listening that could really find this beneficial, maybe because they're in business and they don't know what they're doing, or maybe they're in business and they're just like, I feel like I'm the only one that is struggling with this. And so, with that being said, I decided that I wanted to have an episode where I dive into my real numbers and I talk about how I was able to triple my revenue this year. Now, while that sounds exciting, there's a lot of lessons learned that I have learned from January up until now. And so I'm going to be taking you behind the scenes in my business. We're going to be talking about the numbers that I did this year, the numbers that I did last year, the streams of income that I have in my business. And then we're also going to talk about the game plan that I have moving forward for 2026 in my business to continue to make sure that my growth is constantly growing essentially. And so with that, we're going to just dive right in, skip all the fluff and just go ahead and go for it. So I wanted to take you back to 2024. If you are new here and you maybe don't know anything about me, I own a content creation agency here in Houston. I help entrepreneurs batch shoot their content to market their businesses online. I originally turned this into an official business in June of 2023. And so I've officially been in business for a little bit over 2 years. 2023, obviously, your first year in business, you're just figuring it out. You're excited that got your LLC. And so while 2023 wasn't really a good year for me in business, I was really just kind of learning how to be an entrepreneur, learning how to, actually have a business essentially, how to market, how to have a business plan, all of the foundational things that you have to do when you first start your business. And so in 2023, I'm actually going to pull up my QuickBooks right now so I could tell you how much I made in 2023. But just know that in 2023, it was not a profitable year. In that year, I think I had purchased a new camera. I purchased a new lens. I was just basically, buying the essential things that I needed in my business. And so, with that being said, it was not a profitable business. So, let's take a look at my QuickBooks from January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. So, yeah. So in 2023, I made a whopping $6,000 and my expenses was about $5,000. And so I actually profited $666. Now, again, I started my business in the middle of the year, but that's not actually bad for, being in business for 6 months in 2023. However, last year, which would have been my first calendar year of being in business, I made $14,000 and $14,100. And I had an expenses of $13,000, which made my net income about $221. 2024 was a year of just kind of figuring things out as an entrepreneur. I had a business partner that we ended up going our separate ways at the top of the year. And then I basically had to start my business all over in 2024. So 2024 was a rocky ride. Now, I will say that one of the things that is helping me to keep track of my growth is having a bookkeeping software. And I use QuickBooks. I swear by QuickBooks. I've been using it since I started in business because it's just been so easy to be able to keep up with my expenses, with my income, categorizing my expenses. And so if you are not keeping track of your expenses in business, that's rule number one. Make sure you get you some kind of bookkeeping software or something, an app, a spreadsheet. I'm not really an Excel girl. I like the apps, but making sure that you have somewhere to actually track your income and your expenses. Because if you don't know your numbers, there's no way for you to actually be able to keep track of your growth. So use QuickBooks. I love it because you're able to categorize your expenses. You're able to see how much of your money goes to certain categories. You're able to connect all of your business accounts to QuickBooks. So every time you swipe your card, you actually get a transaction that you categorize rather than having to keep track of those receipts and upload them manually. Everything is done within the app. So I absolutely love, love, love QuickBooks. Now, going back to what I was saying, last year my revenue was $14,100 in revenue. A couple of things that happened that I learned from that year was that I really didn't understand my pricing. I was just kind of going based off of what felt good to me. People would ask me about brand shoes and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I could do it for, $400," without actually crunching the numbers, seeing what I was actually spending my money on, making sure that I'm accounting for the different software and subscriptions that I need to run my business. And so with that, it really just ate at all of my money to where I wasn't able to pay myself. But then I also found myself putting things on my business credit card, which then ended up racking up thousands and thousands of dollars in business debt. And so with that being said, I had to really understand how to price myself, but then also how to get myself out of that hole because it's all good when everyone's like, "Oh, business funding, business funding, business funding," but you actually have to pay that money back. It's not free money. In 2024, I really learned that, yes, now I understand I have a business where people actually need me, but I really need to understand my pricing structure. I really need to understand how to price myself, how to account for travel, for mileage, for gas, for subscriptions. So whether that's editing software, I need to make sure that all of those fees are covered by my packages that I'm offering to my clients so that I'm not always in the red. After 2024, I decided that I was going to go in with a new game plan. Now, in 2025, January from March was super slow, like very, very slow. I want to say in Q1, I probably made about $2,000 across 3 months in 2025. And that could have been a couple of things. One, I don't feel like I was effectively marketing myself at the top of the year, but I also felt like at the beginning of the year, especially in January, a lot of people were kind of, slowly gaining their traction of being back into business, back into work after the holidays. And then February and March came around, people were kind of, already there, but it was just really slow for me. And so during that time, instead of me just sitting around waiting for clients to come, I use that time to actually build my portfolio and build my social proof content. If you have listened to this podcast, you know how I talk about all the time how I pitched myself to people that I was able to use essentially, but then they're also able to use me. So I gave them content that they needed to post on their page, and I, in return, got the content to put on my portfolio. But then I also got the testimonials for social proof to show that there are people that actually work with me. And so during January and March of 2025, that's what I spent those 3 months doing while it was slow. I pitched to brands, I pitched to entrepreneurs. I had someone help me to shoot my BTS, whether that was a friend or if it was just my tripod. But I really wanted to make sure that the content I was capturing was showing me working with clients, because that was going to be the social proof that really kind of helped me to get my foot in the door and then have people trust me to actually pay me to do said thing, right? So, with that being said, I don't even think I mentioned, but this year alone, so as of right now, and I'm currently recording this episode on November 21st, but this, as of right now, my revenue for 2025 is $54,100. That has been like amazing, right? And so, with that being said, I'm going to tell you some of the things that I did this year that I feel really helped me to hit that milestone in business. And while that may not be a lot for some, it was a lot for me, because I told you the first year I was in business, I made 6,000. The second year I was in business, I made 14,000. Both of those years I was barely profitable. I profited a couple $100, but not necessarily anything to scream at. So this has been my first year where I really had a really good foot in on business and making money in my business. So January to March was very slow. Then comes around the corner Q2. And I decided that after I built my portfolio, I was going to run a Mother's Day promo. Now, this Mother's Day promo, you probably also have heard me talk about it on my podcast, because this is the one thing that actually catapulted my business and got me out there. I ran a promotion for mompreneurs for Mother's Day because it was on my heart, and God really just told me like, hey, there's a lot of women who are moms who, need help. And so I put myself out there. I ran a promo and I did a Mother's Day mini content day. And that content package, which was originally $1,000, I did it 50% off. So my clients was able to get that package for like $600 with taxes and fees. And then with that promo, I decided to even exponentially catapult it by putting an ad behind it. So I had a flyer, I had content of me working with women, and I used that as an ad, and I ran an ad. And that is what got strangers to actually know about my business. Now, with this ad, I did do an ad that was specifically specialized to Houston business owners, Houston entrepreneurs. And it got me a lot of exposure, a lot of visibility. I got a lot of leads. And then eventually I was like, hey, I have to shut this off. I have to do a deadline. This, cannot go on. Because at that point, I had exceeded my capacity of how many people that I could take on. And this was something that I didn't think about early on. I didn't think about limiting how many of these promotions that I did. I just basically set an end date and said it had to be booked by, I think, the end of May. And they didn't necessarily have to book the content date in May, but you had to have your deposit paid by May. This was great. However, with this promo, I was attracting a lot of different people. So it helped me to realize who I wanted to work with, what type of brands I wanted to work with. But then I also got people that would pay the deposit and kind of fell off by the wayside. And I didn't hear from them. And although, yes, someone's probably like, oh, wow, well, at least you got the deposit. That's great. But it didn't really help me benefit my business essentially by giving me that exposure to work with different brands. So that's all of that. The great thing about it is that it did help me build momentum for the rest of the year, and it did bring in new clients, and it did give me exposure to their audiences, which then helped me to continue to rapidly push and grow my business. May came in, went. Now's the summertime. And in July, that was actually the first month that I hit K in revenue. My first 10K month, I was super excited about it, but it was insane. At that time, I was getting ready to go to Essence. I had a couple of clients that I was supporting at Essence Fest this year, and I also was still running the promo. So it was a very, very busy time to say the least. However, it did help me to realize what my capacity was because at that time I was taking off days from work during the week to shoot content, and then I was also shooting content on the weekends. So now I know someone's probably asking me, well, when did you have time for your family? And when did you have time to do X, Y, and Z? I did it. And that's part of the reason. One of the things that I'm actually learning now is that, you have to be able to understand what your capacity is. You can't just put things out there with an unlimited number and expect you to continue to see the same results because we're human. We need to rest. We need to set parameters. And so, with that being said, July, I hit my first 10K month. And I feel like that was the thing that kind of just told me or made me feel as if, like, this is possible. I can continue to do this. However, I am going to need help. So, with that being said, I also started to work towards building a team. I hired a couple of behind the scenes assistants that I have in my back burner. Now, all of these are subcontractors. No one is full time. They're all subcontractors that I book on a as needed or project basis. So I hired a couple of behind the scenes assistants to help me shoot my content and make sure that my content was high quality. Because if I'm a content creator and I talk about high quality content, but the content that I'm putting out to market my brand is not high quality, then it's kind of like I'm being hypocritical. So I hired a couple of behind the scenes assistants to come in to shoot my content of me working with my client on their content days. So I would have that content to further market my brand. I then also hired a photographer editor and a video editor. Now, at the beginning, I was just kind of like finding different people on Fiverr to edit my content. It wasn't consistent. I was just trying whoever was available and could take it and turn it around really fast. However, by this time, since I had a good, consistent flow of clients, I was able to negotiate with the editors that I would use frequently from Fiverr and lock in a really good rate since I was giving them consistent work, since I was getting consistent clients. So that helped me essentially to keep a little bit more money in my pocket rather than going on Fiverr, hiring editors for one-offs, and then basically spending a lot of money in fees and a lot of money that they're taxing for them to turn around my project. Now, in August, this was a game changer because then I decided to bring my husband onto the team and have him to become my video editor for my clients. And this was one way for us to kind of keep money in house rather than dishing out money to complete strangers, but we're actually able to keep that money to do things that, we wanted to do around the house. So that was one of the things that I also did in August of this year. And it really just kind of helped me to understand my pricing, understand how to pay people, but still kind of get a gauge on my packages. I was seeing money coming in, but then I was seeing money go out, but I wasn't able to fully understand like how much am I paying myself because I wasn't paying myself? How much am I putting away for taxes? It was an inconsistent number. I was putting money, 8% here, 25% here, 30% here, 10% here. It wasn't consistent. And so with that, I'm starting to understand that yes, while I have a consistent package price and a set rate to where I'm not allowing people to come in and tell me how much they want to pay, but I'm more so saying this is how much the package is. You either take this package or leave it. There's no customizations. This is the price. This is the project. This is how we're going to do it. That helped me this year. However, I still feel like I need a little bit more work in organizing what happens once that payment hits my account. How am I separating it? So, yeah, with that being said, I kind of want to get into some of the revenue streams that helped me to triple my revenue this year. Because while it's easy to assume that all of the revenue came from content days, it's not necessarily it, actually. So with my revenue of the $54,100, I had four different streams of income in my business this year. So my first one is obviously my content days. This was my highest ticket item. This is where a majority of my money came from. And so I'm not actually able to understand like what each amount came from each line item essentially. But I can tell you that these are the 4 streams of income that I have in my business. But content days was my high ticket offer. However, it was my lowest profit margin. Why? Because I wasn't paying myself. I was putting money in my account to pay subcontractors, to pay software, things of that sort. And I was overworking myself because instead of me setting a capacity on how many clients I could support, I was really going months and months at a time of supporting 8 to 10 clients per month. And then also working my full-time job, also being a mom, also being a wife, also doing other things that I have going on. So content days, while it was my highest revenue stream, it was also the most exhausting revenue stream because there was so much physical labor that was going on behind the scenes to actually make that money. And then, of course, when you divide and subtract and you do the math, and you decide what the profit margin is, I believe the profit margin for my content days this year was about 16%, which is not really a lot. It's profitable, but I learned that it's probably best for me to kinda get as close as possible to 30%. So when you do the math and realize like, hey, if you're doing all of this work, if you're commuting across town, if you are having to pay people and then you don't have anything to pay yourself, then maybe that needs a little bit more of adjusting. And so we'll get into that later on in this episode of some of the adjustments that I'm making. But with that being said, that was my main and highest stream of income. The second highest stream of income that I had was hosting my virtual workshops and in-person events. So this year I had a total of 5 workshops slash events. I did 3 in-person co-working and content events. One of them was free. And then I had 2 virtual events. The other 2 in-person events, the first time I think the ticket price was $25. And then the second time the ticket price was $40. And then for the virtual events, the ticket price was $30 or $39. I'm sorry. So while this was a great revenue stream, it also was a revenue stream that I used to help me pay back my credit card debt. So like I said before, last year when I wasn't very profitable in business, I was just running my credit card up and, spending money on things. And so with that being said, I use my revenue or my profit that I made from workshops and events to actually put towards the credit card debt that I was tackling this year. Although there is a higher profit margin, that money kind of was already accounted for. Every time I would get the deposit, I would just transfer that money to the credit card and use that as a way to kind of help me to decrease the amount that is owed on there. However, I essentially started my co-working and content events as a way to try to convert clients into my higher ticket offer. So I used it kind of like as a lead magnet to try to lead people into co-working and into content days. And it was not as successful. And so even though the in-person events were a little bit more heavy lift, heavy duty, because you actually had to do a lot of planning, you had to grab the food, prep the room, organize the logistics, tell people where to park, organize the things with the space. And although the space that we used was for free because it was a partnership, you still had deliverables that you had to deliver for the partnership. And so it was a lot of work. It was a low conversion. And so with that, I am starting to realize that maybe workshops are better than in-person events. And if I do said in-person event, it may have to be at a higher ticket price, but we'll kind of get into that later when we're talking about our plan for 2026. The third thing that I had coming into my business was affiliate marketing. Now, if you're not familiar with affiliate marketing essentially is where you get paid by a said brand that you use to tell people about their brand and to get them to be a part of whatever it is. So one of my main highest affiliate marketing revenuer is Flowdesk. I swear by Flowdesk. I tell everyone about Flowdesk. My clients use Flowdesk. I talk about Flowdesk all the time because I use email marketing so heavy in my business. And so when I first got on as a Flowdesk partner, I believe that was in February of this year. It took a little bit of time to actually start to gain traction and revenue from Flowdesk. However, Flowdesk has now become one of my affiliate marketing checks that I just kind of forget about. And every month it's kind of like a surprise when I'm just like realizing that there's a couple of hundreds of dollars that are deposited into my account just by telling people that, said business exists. Sign up and use it for your business. Another one that I use is ManyChat. ManyChat is also one of the brands that I get paid out for affiliate marketing. And I love, love, love affiliate marketing because it's so low lived. All you have to do is organically tell people about the brand, and then you may have a coupon code or you may have an affiliate link. And when someone signs up with that link, you get credit for it and then they pay you as long as the person is paying them, essentially. So that's been another revenue stream that I'm definitely loving because it takes no work, no effort. It's so easy to talk about and so easy for me to organically tell people to hop on board. And so, yeah, and then the last part of my revenue pie is brand partnerships. So, brand partnerships meaning where you're creating content in exchange for compensation, in exchange for product that you use in your business. This was another arm of my revenue streams in my business. And this came also mostly by way of tech tools that I use in business. And the main ones that I partner with are Flowdesk. During this year, I actually had a Flowdesk partnership that I was able to negotiate a higher rate for. It was a piece of content that I organically created talking about how I use Flowdesk in my business. And then I sold that piece of content to the brand for them to run an ad on. And then they paid me for usage to use it to run an ad on for each month that they ran the ad for that. A couple of other partnerships is that some vlogs that I have, or blogs, I'm sorry, that I've written on my website talking about brands and different things that they have going on. So that was another revenue stream that I have currently in my business of the four: content days, shops and events, affiliate marketing, and brand partnerships. Okay. So now let's move on to my 2026 game plan. My 2026 game plan, I feel strongly in my phalanges that 2026 is going to be my 100K year. Why do I totally feel that? Because I feel like anytime I achieve a goal, I like to like exponentially growth it, like, to the power of two. So, or not to the power of two, but double it. Yeah, double it essentially. Okay, quick pause. If creating consistent content feels like a full time job on top of your full time job, then you're going to want to hear this. I am excited to bring to you Batch, which is a new marketplace platform that I and my co founder, Lauren, have created, built for entrepreneurs and content creators. This is the marketplace that is going to connect business owners and entrepreneurs who need content with vetted local creators who can help them plan, shoot, and edit their content all in one place. So many of you have asked, when am I going to be able to book you for a content day? When can you come to my city? Do you know anyone in my city that does what you do? And this is going to be the solution. So whether you're an entrepreneur who is tired of struggling to find reliable content creators, photographers, or maybe you're just a creator who's ready to get booked and paid without having to go through the social media marketing of your business, Batch is going to be the platform that bridges that gap. So, say for instance, if you're flying to New York for a speaking engagement and you need content there, or even if you have a vendor pop up event in New Orleans and you need content there, Batch is going to be the creator marketplace that helps you get high quality content to market your brand online. It's designed to help you finally show up online with strategy, with confidence, and create consistent content that converts and actually helps you reach your visibility and revenue goals without the overwhelm. So if you're ready to make content creation easier and more intentional, head over to batchcontent.com. That's BATCHED content.com. Join the waitlist so you are the first to know when Batch is launched in your city. What I am working towards, since I hit 54 in revenue this year, I'm hoping to shoot for 100K this year, meaning in 2026. And there's going to be a couple ways that I kind of break that down to actually accomplish it. And so with that being said, let's get into it. So here's how I am planning to make 2026 my 100K year. So The first thing is that I'm going to understand my capacity and also hone in on my quality life. I feel like this year has been my grind season. Like I've been grinding, grinding, grinding. No time for fun, all work, no play. While that is great, it's not sustainable because I actually miss my social life. And so, with that being said, instead of me honing in on 8 to 10 clients per month, I'm actually going to decrease my client load by servicing 4 to 5 clients per month max. I'm also going to make time for more CEO days, meaning days where I actually take time to enjoy things that I like to do, or actually take time to just kind of like, sit in my business and not actually service clients. Use my PTO for actually PTO. So those are a couple of things that I'm thinking of doing more in 2026. And a lot of people are probably like, oh, well, like if you're going to decrease your client load, how are you going to make sure that you hit your goal? So if you really break down 100K into 12 months, it's essentially $8,300 a month that you have to make. And so with that being said, at the current price point for my content days, I still assume that my content days will still be one of my biggest money makers in my business. And so I expect that that will take care of most of the 8,300 essentially in the month, plus all of the other things that I'm going to talk about future that are going to be revenue streams in my business. So the second thing that I'm also going to be pushing is retainer packages. So this year, I realized that there have been a lot of clients that have booked one-off content days, and then they've been clients that are reoccurring clients that have booked content days. And what I'm finding is that the clients that have reoccurring content days on the calendar see the most results and see the biggest transformation. And so for me, that tells me a couple of things that one, whatever I'm doing is working. But two, if people actually want to see the growth and transformation, it's going to take them being consistent with working with me on a month to month basis. And so this is going to be good not only for my client success, but also it's going to help me to build more of a stable and predictable income stream in my business. And so with that, the retainer packages are not only just going to be content days, but I'm also considering offering social media management to my clients where I basically take off social media off of their plate in totality. So instead of just offering content days as a one off, we're going to be doing content days and social media management packages. And then those are going to be priced at about a $2,000 to $3,000 ticket price. And that, if I get 4, 5 clients, is going to help me hit my goal of trying to exceed $8,300 a month. So that's my plan of working my content days and trying to build a more sustainable system. Now, while also, I'm adding something into my offer suite, I'm also going to be leveraging my team and people that I have, my editors, bringing in someone to help me with social media management, scheduling clients' content, managing the client content, literally building out a whole agency model. That's essentially what we're going to be working towards in 2026 because with all of this going on, I'm still going to be building my tech company on the side. And so I have to figure out a way to still be able to bring in consistent income within this current business model, but not actually me doing all of the heavy lifting on my own. So that's what we're going to be doing. The third thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be building a better financial structure. Like I said previously, in the previous years, I've been making money, but I have not been compensating myself. Everything that I make in my business, I'm either paying subcontractors, paying software, or reinvesting in ad spend and equipment or anything else related to the business. And so this year in 2026, I have a better financial structure of how I'm going to break down my finances to be a little bit more organized. And the current way that I'm going to be doing that is 35% of my income is going to be going towards owner pay. Then 35% additionally is going to be going towards operating expenses. That's for subcontractors. That's for software that I use in my business, equipment that I need to purchase, all of those things, expenses, operating expenses. The third thing is I'm going to be putting 25% away for taxes because as we know, as an entrepreneur, you can't get away from taxes. You have to pay taxes. 25% of income is going towards taxes. And then there's going to be a 5% where I put away for emergencies to kind of help me leverage the slow months and to have as a cushion if I ever need anything last minute. I have an emergency fund in my business. So that's going to be the way that I kind of have a better financial structure in my business moving forward to make sure that I'm compensating myself. I have money to run my business. I have money to put away for taxes and pay my taxes. And then I also have an emergency fund as a business owner. Okay. Then the next thing is that I'm actually going to be doubling down on my affiliate marketing and brand partnerships. I feel like this year I've been so focused on trying to get clients in for content days. And now that my audience is very engaged and I have an audience not only on Instagram, but TikTok, I would love to double down on affiliate marketing and brand partnerships and pitching myself to tech companies and tech tools to actually partner with them ongoing for UGC content and having that as another stream of income that is a little bit on the higher scale because I don't actually have to leave my house to be able to make that kind of money. So I'm definitely going to be doubling down on those revenue streams. And then another revenue stream that I'm going to be trying to toy with this year is actually coming out with a digital course that is an evergreen course for my audience members that want to learn how to do things on their own. So I'm actually thinking about doing a digital course where it's going to teach people how to batch shoot their content on their phones. And I'm really going to be walking them through like my exact process on how I use this in my content dates with my clients. So digital course is going to be coming down the pipeline in 2026. And then that's going to be something that's kind of just in my store where you can purchase it at any time. You're going to have video modules, tutorials, all of the things, and it's going to be really nice. So I'm super excited about that because I really see that being beneficial for a lot of people that aren't local to Houston or just people that want to learn how to actually be better at creating content. Now, one of the things that is kind of like low priority in 2026 is probably my events and workshops just because they take a lot of energy and they are lower on the conversion scale. And I really want to be strategic about the time that I spend to do things. So if it's not going to yield a great result, then I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time on it just because it takes a lot of time to market it, to set it up, to create the content, all of the things. And so if we do workshops or events in 2026, it'll probably be one, maybe two out of the whole year rather than doing one as often as I did this year, where it was like almost every other month, essentially. So, yeah, that is exactly how I am planning to hit my 100K year in 2026. So I hope this episode was clear. I hope that it kind of gave you some inspiration to see behind the scenes someone's business. But then also to kind of be inspired that no matter where you are on the scale, whether you made $2,000 or $20,000 or $200,000, that you have a way to actually track your growth, but then also come up with a strategy and a game plan on how to be better in business, better as an entrepreneur. And so I hope that this helped you. I hope you all have an amazing, happy new year. This is crazy that we're already going to be in December or we're already in December. And so, yeah, I look forward to seeing you all in 2026 and keeping track of our goals together and growing together in this crazy journey of entrepreneurship. All right, without further ado, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Side Hustler Podcast. I hope you're leaving here today feeling inspired and ready to take your next step. If you love this episode, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another side hustler who needs to hear it. And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram at Carly Dorlin. I'd love to hear about your side hustling journey. Remember, you're doing better than you think, and your dreams are so worth it. Until next time, keep hustling, sis. You got this.